Right, the crowd are on their feet now. This has to be one of the best performances we've seen of the year. Only in the dying minutes will we ever see anything as great as this ever again. Oh, and it's a goal!
All right, so we're back with Glenn Beckett. Welcome back,
Yeah,
Glenn.
thank you,
This is
Brent.
a
What an
new
honour to be
format.
again.
This is the new format because Matt left the podcast a few episodes ago to focus on family and stuff. I pretty much do all the interviews on this platform called StreamYard. So it's been half a season since we spoke to you.
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago. Back in those days, I was a Nottingham Forest supporter, simply hoping to survive and stay up. Now I'm a Nottingham Forest
Mm.
supporter, hoping to make the Champions League, but well aware that teams like the mighty Bournemouth are only a few places and a few points behind. So it's going to be an interesting race until the end of the season.
I know because I'm adding this Premier League. Who would have guessed? Uh,
Yeah.
at episode 5, when I interviewed you, or when we interviewed you, that will be up the dizzying heights of the Premier League. I mean, third place. You have been second
Yeah.
for a few seasons.
Well, when I met you back in, was it August? And we were talking about our hopes and expectations for the season. I think I remember saying that I was hopeful we might move up the table a bit from being relegation threatened the season before up to the giddy heights of 14th,
14.
which I would have
And
happily taken just to see some sort of improvement. But I don't exactly know what's happened. But here we are. We've been second for a while. We're back down in third now, just on goal difference. And as I was saying to you the other day in the pub, who would have thought that Forest and Bournemouth would be up there in those European chasing positions? So, what a time to be alive!
time to be alive. And what do you think has happened? What has Nuno done to to,
I
to
think,
deserve such
yeah.
accolade?
I think there's a few things. I mean, we've brought in a few new players. I think the two main newcomers I'd have to mention would be Milenkovic at centre half, who is a seasoned, experienced Serbian international defender that we managed to prize away from Fiorentina, and he's been a revelation at the back, partnering Murillo, and between them, they've really shored up our defence. Because last season, I think we shit and conceded the most number of goals from set pieces, corners, free kicks, which was shocking to see, shocking to watch, especially seeing as some of them happened in the last minute of games last season. So Milenkovic has come in, really shored that up with Murillo at the back. And then also, I think Nuno's had a lot of time to work with them in pre-season. I think that shouldn't be underestimated. The chance to work with your own players and drill them, get them organised. And we can clearly see that this season they're far more organised. And also the purchase of Anderson as well. Anderson from Newcastle, which all happened as part of the PSR situation, whereby we sold to Newcastle a relatively useless goalkeeper who only made half a dozen games for us. We got Anderson coming the other way for what looked like an inflated price at the time, considering he'd only played a few times for Newcastle. My Newcastle supporting friend told me that we'd got an exceptionally good player there. I was less than convinced, but he's settled in well. He's a battling, all-action sort of a player in that central midfield role. The one flaw in his game this season was a lack of goals, but he finally got his first goal of the season last week against your near neighbours on the south coast,
Oh yeah.
Southampton. So I think Anderson and Milenkovic are the only real new players compared to last season. But it's more about how he's drilled them and organised them in pre-season. We had a few results early on in the season, crucially for us, the away win at Anfield, which for us was a big deal. We're still, as at the end of January now, the only team to have beaten Liverpool this
That's
season.
right.
But for us, that was a real watershed moment, because back in the day when we used to be a very strong team, when I was a kid or when I was a teenager, it used to be ourselves and Liverpool challenging each other at the top, whether it be in the European Cup, the League Cup, FA Cup. But yeah, despite that, even when we were a half decent side, we never managed to actually beat them at Anfield. Even when we were at our best under Brian Clough, the best we'd ever do would be a 0-0 or a 1-1 there. So to actually go there and win for the first time since 1969 was a huge thing for us. And I think confidence grew from there. So to be honest, look, if I was a neutral fan, I mean, I'm not. I'm a one-eyed, biased Nottingham Forest supporter. But if I was a neutral fan, I wouldn't particularly enjoy watching Forest, if I'm honest. I don't think we're a particularly attractive team to watch. It's all a very deep-lying defence, soak up the pressure, and just hope to hit on the counter-attack. But that's been working. It's been working for us, as you can see from that league table on the screen, 3rd place. I think they're overachieving, going on the players we've got, just trying to be honest. But we're now in a situation where we are trying to bid for players like Matheus Cunha at Wolves, who we wouldn't have been in a position to attempt to sign, a year ago, even 6 months ago. But now allegedly we're in the place or the position where we can put in £60 million bids for a player like that, because we are in a Champions League placing, and there's a chance of a Champions League place. I know the likes of Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City, of course, I know they're likely to come strong and they're just behind us. But we're still in the mix at the moment. 3.5 months to go until the end of the season. So, yeah, we're in there. Even Bournemouth might chase us down there as well. But as I was saying to you the other day, I would still snap your hands off now for any European place. It doesn't have to be Champions League. I'd take the Europa League, even the Conference League, just to get back into Europe after all these years.
Well, after all these years, we've never been. But yes, for you guys, that's definitely the case, isn't it? I was going to ask you about the January transfer window, but you've kind of mentioned it in a way. So is any other ones apart from that Wolves player? Or is
supposedly we've been trying to buy Wissa from Brentford, but I think we put a slightly lower or derogatory bid in there for him. I think that's probably slightly more likely to come off than Matheus Cunha at Wolves, to be honest. But if so, we'd need to up our bid, I think. I'm not 100% convinced that he'd be the right player, but it's nice to see us bidding for players of that calibre.
Yeah, is it the guy with the beard?
No, that's Umbuono. Is it Umbuono? I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. He seems to play more out wide, whereas Wissa seems to play more through the middle. So we've put a bid in there for him. Brentford have apparently just rejected our bid. I'm not sure exactly what the bid was, but apparently too low. So he may go in there again. At least from Forest's point of view, he is a proven Premier League striker who can do it, as opposed to running the risk, taking a gamble, getting somebody in from whatever, the Dutch league, German league, who might not necessarily have played Premier League before. The same with Cunha at Wolves. It's a difficult balancing act, because in our situation, which is still fantasy land at the moment, being where we are, it's a difficult balancing act because things have gone so well. And if you bring in a new player, maybe in our case, it probably does need to be a striker. If you bring in a new player and you pay them X, Y, Z crazy money, maybe more than any other player who's on at the club, it could upset the balance, and it could potentially affect the team spirit. And it's a fine line. You've got to be very careful that if you are going to bring in a new player, they have to be obviously better than what we've got, but they also have to be the right person, or have the right personality to fit in without upsetting too many other people who've already done a good job. So do you sort of keep going as you are at the moment, hope to get through to the end of the season, then bring in a new player, a new £60 million striker? Or do you do it now to try and help us get over the line into a Champions League place?
Yeah, and I guess that's January transfer market's always had that reputation of not being the value for money transfer market. And all the good players are pretty much going to stay put, so it's kind of extra hard. I guess that's the reason why any club recruitment and scouting network is a 24/7 thing. It's just not just switches on during the 2 transfer windows. It's always looking for possible replacements and stuff, which I guess every club does to a certain measure. So yeah.
Any chance of getting your left back? I do like the Bournemouth left back. I wouldn't mind.
Kerkez. I think Liverpool are trying to get him.
And I was blown away, I have to say. Bournemouth's performance last week, considering it's Bournemouth v Forest this coming weekend, Bournemouth's performance last week at St James's Park was scary for me to watch, knowing that we've got you boys up next, because you obviously see Bournemouth more than I do, but that, I think, is the best performance I've ever seen from a Bournemouth team. I thought Bournemouth were absolutely outstanding at St James's, and it's hard to pick out one particular player. I mean, obviously Kluivert was one, Kerkez at the back, but I mean, overall, I thought the team was exceptional in that. Lewis Cook, I thought, had a great game. What a performance! So I've just got to hope, from a Forest point of view, that you've hit your peak, and the players are all fatigued after that effort. Because we could do with 3 points there, just to push on the Champions League spot. But Bournemouth were outstanding last week, to be honest.
That they were. I was at Cheesebar for that one. We also had representation from our other official supporters group in New South Wales called the Central Coast FC Bournemouth Central Coast supporters. So yeah, that was a very enjoyable game. I thought at 1-1, I'm thinking, oh, here we go. But I just don't think we allowed them to play. We played a pressing game. I'm actually surprised we managed to make it last pretty much the whole 90 minutes plus. So I hadn't seen, because during the match there's always this sustained pressure, and then there's always some dips and stuff. And maybe if there were any dips in Bournemouth's game, Newcastle didn't capitalise on it, or maybe they were fatigued as well. Which I think is one of the things that Eddie Howe said, is that we're 9 games winning in a row.
Is it good from the point of view to be able to get one over on Eddie Howe?
Well, we'd already beaten Eddie's team last year. I think it was 2-0, 2 goals from Solanke last year. So we'd already done that. But Eddie, in 6 attempts, hasn't beaten Bournemouth. I think they've lost twice and drawn us 4 times. So,
bit of a bogey team.
Sorry?
Bit of a bogey team.
We are, just like with us against you guys. So
yeah, looking at the stats, my Forest friend was saying the other day, too many recent Bournemouth Forest games have been draws, lots and lots of draws, or you've edged a few games 1-0. There's a dodgy game. I think it was might have been last season or the season before. I think Bournemouth beat us 3-2 at Forest, but it was a very controversial game from our point of view, because there was a ridiculous sending off involved, which helped to turn the tie in your favour. But you'll have to trust.
We went behind 2-0, didn't we? that one.
It might have been that one, yeah. And
Yeah.
we had one of the most ludicrous sendings off I've ever seen with, the big centre half Willie Bolly, ex.
Oh yeah.
It was a ridiculous decision by the referee. One of the worst decisions I've ever seen watching football over, for how many years? 45, 46 years watching football.
Was this like a two-legged tackle, or what was the?
No, it was just a clear tackle. Won the ball clearly, not high, not dangerous. Won the ball clearly. Referee only stood a few meters away off the top of my head, and he gave him a red card. I think every single person in the stadium and on the field was absolutely stunned. And I think it just affected the Forest players' concentration, because we went from being 2-0 up and we managed to contrive a 3-2 defeat from that. And it was just such a disappointing game to watch from that moment on. So, yeah, we kind of we do owe Bournemouth, actually. There's been a lot of 1-1 draws, a few draws, and then you've pinched a few games. I remember in the promotion season that we both had, there was a chance where I think Bournemouth was second and we were third, and we had a chance of sneaking an automatic promotion slot, but we had to go to your place and get a result. This would have been about April, May 2022, but we went down 1-0. Just very even game, not a lot in it, but we went down 1-0. So yeah, we probably do owe you boys a win. It's just too many draws, and from our point of view, a few late, very unfortunate defeats. So time to turn the tide, I think.
Time to turn. You said that in August last year. I mean, this year. Actually, no, it was last year.
That's right, because we did the podcast in August, just before the first game of the season, didn't we? And that was another. Yeah, well, exactly, a 1-1 draw. I think even yourself and a few other Bournemouth fans that night admitted that we were probably the better team, but we just had a lapse of concentration. I think it was about 5 minutes from the end, and Bournemouth snatched a 1-1. You'll tell me who equalised, because I can't remember.
Well, we had before that. I think in the first half we had a goal that was disallowed just for a fraction offside by. Good
old VAR, eh?
Danko. When it works, eh? But most for our teams, it doesn't do really any favours. To be honest, I can't remember who scored that equalising goal. It definitely wasn't Solanke, I think. But there you go.
Semenyo, was it maybe?
Oh, it could have been. Yes, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's another player I wouldn't mind. How much would you accept for him? For what a player he is!
I'll take 80 million. I'll take 80.
I was going to offer you 50.
Real Madrid was interested in one of our defenders as well, Hussein, the 19-year-old guy, and I think we put a £60 million clause on his release clause for £60 million. And I said, if it's Real Madrid, mate, £60 million isn't anything really.
I haven't seen it of him.
No, that's it. I mean, he's not that hard to miss though. He's about 6.
Quite tall, yeah.
7 foot tall, or 6'9" or something like that.
Is he Dutch?
He's Dutch by birth, but then he moved to Spain when he was a kid, and then he played for under 16, 17, 18 Holland, and then he just switched to the Spanish. He got Spanish nationality, so now plays for Spain with the surname of Hussein. So there you go. That's very Spanish.
Hence the Real Madrid interest. Okay.
Yeah, but you know what the media's like. This person's interest, that person's interest. I think half of it is just see what the reaction is, see what the price. Not fixing, but kind of just trying to see what they can get away with.
So just going back to August, then, when I was on your previous podcast with yourself and Matt as well, from a Bournemouth fan's point of view, didn't you both say that you would have been happy, or you were aiming for a top 10 finish? And
I said 9th to 10th.
Very much, currently, you're very much on track, probably slightly above that expectation.
Yeah, because I remember you said 14th with a good cup run. as long as
Yeah,
any team beats Man City's.
In the FA Cup this year, I just fancy a good run at the FA Cup. When I was a kid or when I was younger, I've seen us win European Cups, League Championships, League Cups. The FA Cup's the one I've never seen us win. So the best I've seen in my lifetime was the 1991 FA Cup
versus
final.
Spurs.
The Des Walker own goal, the one where Gaza should have been red carded for a shocking
injured.
challenge on Gary Charles, you may remember. But that's the best I've seen. We've won the FA Cup a few times, but not in my lifetime. So I really fancy a good go at the FA Cup. As long as somebody else maybe knocks out Liverpool or Man City or Arsenal for us, then you never know. We might have a good run there. You never know. I might even contemplate checking Sydney to Heathrow flights around May time if we get that far.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely. If I could get a ticket, I'm a member. I loan my membership card out to a friend over there to get a few points on attendance stats. So you never know. I'd certainly be tempted to go over there. Check it with the missus first, of course. I'm sure I'd get a free pass, and I might have to see if I could shoot out there for a flying visit. I'm not sure how my boss would feel about that at work, but you never know. It's been done before. Similar things have been done before.
I know. And I was going to actually talk about work because is it once a year in Australia or in Sydney they have a bring your football shirt to school day?
We do. We have in Australia they call it Jersey Day. We may call it Shirt Day in England, but the terminology they use over here is Jersey Day, which I think probably comes from rugby league or rugby union parlance, to be honest. So we do. So I will usually go in a Nottingham Forest shirt. I'm a primary school teacher, if any viewers aren't aware of that. So I teach year 6 kids. So in my coming up to, what are we now, 19 and a half, almost 20 years now in Australia as a teacher, in previous years, all the kids at various schools have been unaware of who Nottingham Forest are, this being Australia, of course, and the time zone. So all the kids know generally at that age is the usual Liverpool, Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid, the usual. Ronaldo, Messi, Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldo, Messi. However, in the last year or two, I'm starting to get kids showing some interest. I've been handing out free scarves, free spare shirts that I happen to have, just attempting, a little bit of mild brainwashing on young minds, in the right way, of course. And so when I go back to school next week, back to the real world, because I'm on school holiday at the moment, when I go back to school next week, I'm expecting to see lots of the boys in my football team to be expressing some admiration, a few compliments maybe, as to how Forest are going, especially those that support the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United, who we've managed to beat this season. So it'll be interesting. So I'll continue to do my bit. It might help if we make the Champions League, and then maybe I can sway some of these kids away from Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool, etc., onto the trees. You never know.
So when you mentioned Messi, Ronaldo, of course, traditionally would have been Barcelona and Real Madrid, or Barcelona and Manchester United. But now I've seen in my local area, Messi shirts for Inter Miami, Ronaldo shirts for whatever Saudi club he plays for, which is unbelievable, really. So if you want to get hold of any shirt, it is possible these days.
But in Australia, I think what they tend to do, they know their market, they know they're targeting young kids. I've seen it myself in shopping centres, cheap import, fake copies from China, Thailand, wherever, India, wherever it is, and you can buy these Inter Miami tops, Ronaldo Saudi Arabian top, cheap price, $20 Australian or so, something along those lines. Moms are easily persuaded. As I say to my Nottingham Forest supporting mates, Of course, there are no standards these days. No standards anymore. Show a bit of imagination. Just don't just follow the herd. Don't be a sheep. Don't just go with the
I know.
usual Liverpool, Man United, Barcelona. Oh, come on, show a
It's
bit of
human nature, isn't it?
Oh,
Human nature.
what's wrong with
Yeah,
an Ipswich Town shirt?
yeah, exactly. It's great.
Everton, Aston Villa, Sevilla. Just something a bit different, not the same. But it's all Champions League TV and
Yeah.
just cheap imports. So who knows what price? I'm not really a betting man, but what price Forest and Bournemouth both in Europe next season? We don't know which competition yet, but there's a fair chance of that. Both
There
Forest
is.
and Bournemouth in Europe maybe at the expense of Man
Man
United,
City.
probably Tottenham, probably Man United and Tottenham. They're not looking like
No, they're not. I mean, let's have a look at
Mm,
the thing
yeah.
there. Yeah, I mean, Man United currently in 13th and
Mhm.
Tottenham in 15th. Who would have thought? Who would have
Yeah.
thought?
Well,
Yeah.
it's certain all these supposed big clubs collapsing or having poor seasons. It just benefits those teams like Forest and Bournemouth who don't quite have the finance of those bigger, more so-called powerful teams. So it's nice to see a few gaps appearing in the upper echelons of the league table to allow Forest, Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham are up there, aren't they? With chances of sneaking into Europe. Man City have had a poor run for a few months, although I fully expect them to be climbing back up that table.
Yeah.
Chelsea to me look outstandingly good going forward. So I love watching Chelsea. Madueke, Cole Palmer in particular.
Oh,
Uh,
he's up there
standing
as well.
forward.
Yeah.
I just think they're not quite as sharp at the back. But again, I do expect Chelsea to be there or thereabouts as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were quite disappointed to come away with the 2-2 draw from Stamford Bridge, and that sort of shows the level of ambition at Bournemouth. When especially, I mean, we were winning 2-1 and conceded in additional time.
Yeah.
So
That
our
was
biggest problem,
was that
our
about a
biggest
week?
problem is. So say again.
I was just saying, was that game about a week ago? I vaguely remember
Ish,
that game being on the
roughly.
same time as in Cheers Bar for the Forest Liverpool game,
Yes.
which morning. I did see a couple of Bournemouth fans in there, but not you on that day. I don't think. I don't remember seeing you that day.
No. I was thinking. Well, I had the choice of doing, watch party both for the Chelsea game and the Newcastle game. And I thought two games in a row so close together. I thought, oh, I'm going to make a choice and make it the Newcastle. And I think I did well for that
You
choice.
picked in the end, yeah, because they were outstanding. It's one of those games I did get to see the full 90 minutes of. Because over here the kickoff time was reasonable. Was it something like 10:30, 11 p.m. kickoff? With
11:30 p.m.
Yeah, so a reasonable kickoff time that I can put up with here in Sydney. Whereas if it was a later kickoff, I would have been tempted to just watch the mini match the following morning. For those that don't know, the mini match over here we get on Optus Sport, which is 24, 25 minutes worth of highlights. Is good, pretty, better than match of the day, really, without the inane punditry. So you get 25 highlights, which is worth watching. But yeah, as I say, I got the full 90 minutes of Bournemouth's performance at Newcastle, which is why I was blown away with how good they were. Which is why I'm mildly fearful of the game this weekend at your place, because you were on fire. So I've just got to hope we can keep our run going and do something at your forward line.
We always seem to have these great games, and then the following game is a bit of a letdown. But we are on 11 games unbeaten in all competitions. Our only problem is the injuries. We've got about 12 first-team players out injured. So we basically
that didn't manifest itself last week. It didn't seem to cause any problems
did
last
it?
week at all.
I know, but the problem is if we get any more injuries, we're stuffed because I mean, no disrespect to the academy players that are on the bench, but when you're facing the top Premier League teams, you need to have your best starting 11, and we pretty much got 11 players plus the goalkeeper and Jefferson, who came back from an unsuccessful loan at Watford. And we have just lost you. Can you hear me? No, I'm wondering whether his battery is being charged. Just for the record, we've had some previous technical issues with Glenn's laptop, so we switched to his phone, as you can probably imagine. And yeah, I'm sure he'll come back. All right. How are we doing? Hey, we're back on.
There we are. Can you hear me again?
I can hear you now. Yes. You had a black screen
No,
for
I
a
don't
while.
have your
I
volume. I have no idea what's happened there.
Your battery's charged, isn't it, for the phone? Yes, it's.
Why don't we have volume?
Oh yeah, but I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yep.
The problem is
Yep.
I can't hear you now, Nick. It all seems to be very silent.
Okay, let's have a look.
All that happened there is that my wife phoned and everything just seemed to cut off. So I had to cancel her call, but then the settings appear to have changed.
Okay, so you
The
still
joys
can't
of
hear me.
technology. So I can't hear you at all now, Nick.
Oh dear. All right, so I can. Let's see. Let's have a look. What I'm going to do is try and do this. I will put a.
Maybe we need to cut that short then, Nick. I haven't changed anything, but I'm now getting no volume from you, unfortunately.
Okay, just paste. Check your chat.
Okay. The World Cup. Just looking at your quick comment there about the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I wouldn't say I was 100% certain to go. I did go over to Germany for the Euros in June last year, 2024. Had a lovely trip out to Cologne for that bore draw between England and Slovenia. A 0-0 draw cost me a fortune, but that's football. So I am prone to doing crazy expensive overseas trips. The US-Canada trip is on, I would say, but not 100% yet. It depends on the usual work and the wife and the kids. But I have a wife with relatives in Toronto who has been bugging me wanting to go to Toronto for a few years. So that could be on the cards. I've never been to the States, so this is my obviously my main opportunity or an excuse to finally get over there. So flying from Sydney, I'm looking into flying across to probably Los Angeles, I would imagine, and then a bit of a look around the New York, Toronto corner, maybe down to Florida if the kids come with me for a nice summer holiday. Swimming pool based, and then I will try my best to get around to wherever England are playing. But I can't say it's 100% yet. Probably 60-40 or maybe 70-30. I still got over a year to save up and see how things work out with holidays. But certainly on the agenda, and I've got every excuse to go really to get over to that part of the world.
Okay.
I'm going to check your comments again because I still don't have any volume from you.
So you talked about fake
okay.
fake shirt.
So okay, with regards to the fake Forest shirt, I would show you if I knew you were going to ask me that one. I'd show you, but it's actually out on the washing line drying at the moment. So as I mentioned to you in person, I did try for the first and only time, I think, getting a cheap imported shirt from the famous DH Gate in China, who will sell you cheaper shirts. I think it only cost me something like $20 Australian. So I thought I'd just try, because I was a bit annoyed, a bit fed up with the price that presumably Adidas and Forest were charging for one of the latest shirts. So I spent $20 Australian on a copy, and it was reasonable quality, apart from one thing, which again I would show you if I knew you were going to ask me that. But if you can all visualize the forest badge, the forest tree, the top part of the tree is just not quite right, and you can tell it's just not been designed quite professionally enough, I would say. So you can probably pick it as being a fake if you look closely. But for $20 Australian, viewers, listeners might say, what do you expect? And yeah, I guess that's right. It's worth experimenting, but I don't think I'd try again in future. I might have to stick with the original, but it was certainly worth doing.
Cool.
I'm still not getting any volume from you at all, Nick, I'm afraid.
No, but you can see we can do this via chat.
Yeah,
still St.
got
George
no volume.
play.
I'm going on your comments.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a book that can be purchased directly from myself. I've still got about 10, 12 copies left. If anybody's interested, you can contact me through Nick on here. It was a book I wrote going back about 10 years now, 10, 11 years ago, about my life traveling overseas with friends, and even my wife on one of them, watching England in various places from Lisbon to Sofia to Kiev in Ukraine. Great experiences. Not so much information about the actual football, the actual matches themselves, but just more about what it's like traveling with friends, having fun, maybe drinking a bit too much, dodgy hotels, cheap flights, various scrapes along the way, but just hopefully an interesting story from a fan's point of view. So I believe it is still available on Amazon if you look it up. Or if you are living in Australia, I can post you a copy directly. Might charge you $5 or something, package and posting. But you can contact me through Nick if you are interested.
Yeah, I love the cover. I think it's great.
Well, I don't want to talk too much about the various scrapes we had, because that would all be included in the,
just give me one.
The book, Nick, of course.
Can you give us one scrape? Oh dear. Yeah, keep the thing. Well,
I guess one encounter. Really, it's a growing up story in lots of ways as well. There's a couple of stories there from our time in the south of France or in Bulgaria. In our single days before marriage, just various scrapes with. In certain cases with various young ladies, and in certain other cases with escaping from the Bulgarian police force at the time. But
wow.
Hopefully you'll find those stories entertaining if you choose to purchase the book.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So last question. Prediction. This weekend's Bournemouth game.
Okay, prediction for this weekend. Just reading from your comments again, my volume's just totally gone. Maybe I'm not techie enough. I'll blame my wife for that phone call, which seemed to interrupt everything and throw everything out. Prediction for this weekend then, okay, Bournemouth Forest. I'm going to have to go with, I'll go Bournemouth 1, Forest 2. Time for a win instead of the usual draw.
Oh man. All right, cool. Well, I wanted to thank you for being on here, and appreciate your time. This is your holiday time, so thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thanks everybody. Sorry about the volume issues over the last 10 minutes or so.
All right, take care. See ya.